Let me introduce you nested queries. So nested queries are, I can say that, a new construct in SQL for you, and using that we are going to write better queries than what we wrote. So we'll see how to use these nested queries. The best way to understand these nested queries, to write some of the queries and understand the working principle and learn how the nested queries are working, then think about writing new queries by using these nested queries. So let me introduce you nested query concept slowly. So we use nested queries along with in and not in operators, exist not exist operator, and any and all operator. Before any, the preceding thing is OP, that is operator. So any operator we can use here: less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and not equal to relational operators. Okay. So let's begin with in and not in operators. So whenever we write a nested query, so the idea is like this: we write a query first of all, on that query we write again another query. See here. So this is actually usual query, right? Select from where. So in the where, instead of condition, of course it's a condition. In the condition, I have introduced new query, right? This is a query. So this is called subquery. So this subquery should be evaluated to, evaluate the where condition of the outer query. So this is called outer query. So your outer query is going to produce the output. Here it is going to print S names, but to print S names we have to evaluate this where condition, but that where condition is depending on the output of the subquery. So how this output is going to, change, otherwise, it's going to, I can say, affect your output of the outer query, we will see. Okay. So for that I took one table sailor, an instance like this sailors, and let's say this is reserves. So how to evaluate these nested queries? As usual, you start with your outer query. So step number 1 is taking the outer queries table. After that, apply the where condition in the outer query. Okay. Then go to the step number 3. That's it. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Since step number 2 contains a condition which involves subquery evaluation, that is the reason I am going to evaluate subquery. So we will see what is the output of subquery first. After that I will come to this in operator. So this output, if you see, select r.sid from reserves R where r.bid equal to 103. That means this is an independent query here, right? So it is not depending on outer queries variables. See here, I have one table called R. From, see, the in from table we have R, and we are using only that R to write some conditions, right? And after that later we are printing r.sid. Let me execute this query for this table. Select r.sid, yes, from your reserves one by one. So how this query will be evaluated is again step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Let's take step number 1. So take the reserves table. Yes, I have taken. So now iterate over all the tuples. That means this one, every tuple should be processed. Take every tuple and apply this where condition. Whenever that r.bid equal to 103 on the tuple, print the corresponding SID. So here it is 103. That's why SID will be printed. I am writing output now. So especially this is, I can say, temporary output, which is not going to be a permanent one. Okay. So this is a temporary output, which is nothing but r.sid. First of all, it is 103. Later, we'll come here. Whenever r.bid is 103, then only we have to print r.sid. I'm sorry, this r.sid is 1, right? Yes. Then again, here condition will be satisfied when you were evaluating the third tuple. Then r.sid is again 1. Yes. SQL allows duplicates. Yes, we print duplicates. Then later we will see 3 103 condition is satisfied again. Then this tuple will be printed and its SID will be printed, which is 3, right? So 1 comma 1 comma 3. Once it is done, now we will go to our original query. So what is, how to evaluate the original query? Start again 1 2 3. Step number 1, iterate over every sailor. So first this tuple, after that this tuple. In that way every tuple should be processed, and apply where condition. So in this one, where s.sid in. So what is s.sid in the first tuple? 1. Is that, now you have to ask this question, is this 1 in, right? See, 1 in, so this table 113, right? So now since 1 belongs to 113, so this condition will become true for first tuple. then whenever condition is true, we have to print the corresponding sailor name, right? So Raju will be printed. So output now this is, I can say, real output which is going to be printed on your screen. So that is Raju, right? Later second tuple will be evaluated 2 comma Rani. For that, what is the corresponding s.sid? 2. So 2 in 113, no, 2 is not in 113, correct? So that's why corresponding s name will not be printed, which is nothing but Rani will not be printed. Then later we'll go to the third tuple, so where 3 is in 113, so corresponding sailor name is Ramesh, Ramesh will be printed. Later we process 4, 4 is not in 113, so we don't print it, correct? So finally Raju comma Ramesh will be printed because of this query. Now, so you understand the process how this query will be evaluated, right? So similarly we can use not in operator. Whenever I use here not in operator, what you should do is, first of all, to every time to apply where condition, whenever you apply where condition, so the condition will become true whenever the condition with in was false. That means, so it's not, does not belongs to. That means, example, let's say your number is 1. If 1 in 113 is true, right, then 1 not in 113 is true, false. That's it. So that means 1 does not belongs to 113. Yes or no is a question. No, right? So that's why 1 will not be printed in that case when there is a not in operator. So we'll see one example with not in operator to understand it clearly. So again, it's a nested query, right? So we use not in operators and in operators with only nested queries. So we'll see that. So here first step is outer query, right? This is outer query and this is inner query. Take every outer query tuple, that means every sailor's tuple, and process it and execute under where condition. That means evaluate the where condition. Let's do that. So first step is take the Raju and SID1 and apply this condition. But if you see, to understand where condition here, s.sid not in this one. That means this where condition is depending on this right side query, correct? That's why we have to evaluate this query. So what I do is, I have given here 2 tables. This is, let's say, reserves, this is boards. Since this outer inner query requires reserves or boards B, correct? That's why these are the 2 tables. Now we'll try to execute this query first. Select r.sid from reserves R, boards B, where r.bid equal to b.bid and b.color equal to red. There are 2 ways generally we can understand the queries. One is understanding the logic behind the query. Second one, taking the examples and blindly applying the conditions which are mentioned in the where class in the query. That's it. So let me do in 2 ways. First of all, select. So we know again step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Step number 1, take the reserves or boards B. That means we have to apply Cartesian product. So it gives you 9 tuples. That's why I never suggest, writing all the 9 Cartesian product after that understanding it. But we assume that, let's say we have 9 tuples. What are they? 1007 007 red, 1007 008 green. Rather than writing them, we just remember them in the brain and keep continuing. So there is a where condition, right? In the where condition, finally what should happen? Out of that 9 tuples, that r.bid should be equal to b.bid. So let me directly map them. So r.bid, this is r.bid should be equal to b.bid. So this is one such combination. Out of 9 combinations, only I am taking the combinations which satisfy r.bid equal to b.bid. Anything else? That's it. This one, sorry. So r.bid equal to b.bid. But moreover, there is another condition, b.color equal to red. That condition also should be satisfied. So only this tuple satisfy this condition. So finally, I have only one combination out of 9 combinations. I am writing it. So in your Cartesian product, you will get SID, BID along with BID color, right? So such that, so SID is 1, BID is 007 and again 007, color is red. So easily we can understand this with this also. See, finally r.bid equal to b.bid and b.color equal to red. So rather than doing this one directly also I can do it. Finally any tuple, let me take an empty tuple and blindly fill the values which satisfies where condition. Example, any random tuple in R cross B will have SID and BID and BID and color, isn't it? Really, whenever this condition and this condition are satisfied, B dot color automatically will become red and R dot BID equal to B dot BID. That means if this is X, this is X, right? Then what are you doing? We are projecting R dot SID. So what is R dot SID? 1 in this example. Let's not assume any example. Then what is that R dot SID's property? Here R dot SID is property who reserved red color board, correct? If you understand the query, then you realize that finally we are printing all the sailor IDs who reserved red color boards, right? So finally either follow this technique, take an example of tables and do whatever the operation mentioned in the where class. Second one, imagine one empty tuple first like this and fix the otherwise apply all the where conditions apply all the where conditions. That means B dot color red, then R dot BID equal to B dot BID, then print R dot SID. This Y is printed. Whenever we are printing Y's BID is matching with red color board's BID. That means Y reserved red color board, correct? So I can say that any Y from now onwards, this Y is a variable. This variable represents what? So when Y is printed, while printing time, so its corresponding BID. What is the relation between this Y and X in the reservations? This particular boat sailor ID reserved this boat, correct? Y reserved a boat X and that boat X is red color boat. Then only conditions will be satisfied, correct? I can say that whenever you are printing a tuple, the sailor ID is nothing but a sailor ID who reserved definitely one red color boat. Then only it matches, right? So now from now onwards, this is nothing but collection of SIDs who reserve red color boards. Okay, remember it. Now for this example 1, of course, right? Now what we are going to do here, we will see. Take every sailor wherever S dot SID not in 1. Why one SID not in 1? What is the description of this SIDs? Collection of SIDs who have reserved red color boards, correct? I can say red color board reservers, all these people. And you are taking every tuple from sailor, and whenever your sailor's S dot SID not here, we are printing them. So whenever a sailor's SID not here means he doesn't reserve any red color board, correct? So that's for example. See, 1 not in 1 false. Actually, sorry, 1 not in 1 is false. The reason 1 in 1, right? So that means don't print this tuple because where condition is false. Second, 2 not in 1, yes, that's why where condition will be satisfied, then corresponding name will be printed. That's why Ramesh will satisfy the condition. Next, 3 not in 1, true, Suresh will be printed. 4 not in 1, so Gopal will be printed because these 3 tuples satisfy the condition of where. That's it. So now you can understand what is the output of this query. The output of this query is collection of all the S names whose SID is not here. Not here means these people are people who reserve red color boards, and we are not here means what? Definitely they are the names who have not reserved red color boards. That's it. Now we'll see if we have multiple levels of nestedness. Example here you see this is the outer query. In that we have inner query, right? Again in this inner query we have one more level of inner query, right? I can say that this is outermost, right? So this is innermost. So now the question, how to understand it and what is the output of this query? So learn how to evaluate this kind of queries, because in the GATE exam they are going to give you this kind of queries and they ask what is the output. So we'll see how this query will be evaluated. So again if you see, it's just blind. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Since this where condition is depending on this query, we have to evaluate this query. So but how to evaluate this query? Select from where? We know step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Since step number 2 is depending on this query, so finally without evaluating this query, we cannot answer this query, we cannot answer this query, then we cannot answer this query, right? So finally problem is reduced to how to evaluate this innermost query. If you see this query, so this query is only depending on the variables of this query itself, right? So I am going to teach you later. So the queries which depend on outer query, that means example here in outer query there is a variable s, right? I am going to use that outer query's variable s in the inner queries, so they will become dependent. So we'll see that queries later. Here at this moment this is independent query which is not depending on any other query. Let's try to evaluate. Select B dot BID from boards B where B dot color equal to red. So this time I don't take an example, but I try to understand what is the output of this query. Okay, so collection of boards. What we are going to do is step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Take every board, iterate over that boards and apply this where condition. Whenever b dot color equal to red, collect them. If you do that, all the tuples will be processed from boards, and whenever color equal red, such tuples will be selected and their corresponding BIDs will be collected. So I can say that here this query's result is a bag, right? So what is that bag contains? That bag contains BIDs whose color is red color. I can say that red color board IDs. Now we'll go to the next level. So we try to understand this one. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, right? So if you see in the step number 1, we are taking a reservation table and we are iterating over reservations, right? One by one. Tuple number 1, tuple number 2, tuple number 3. Then every tuple will be, executed under this where condition. So what is that where condition? What is this r.bid? In a particular tuple, because we are iterating over every reservations, right? So this r.bid is nothing but one of the boat ID. That means one of the reservation tuple. In that r.bid is here. So what I do is I take one random reservation tuple like this, and this is SID, this is BID. But remember, we are going to iterate over every reservation. So let's say this is first reservation. Let's fix some number like this. SID1 BID, let's say 007. Now the question, so we are going to check r.bid in here or not. What is this one? Already collection of red color boards. For good imagination, we assume that 007, 008 are red color boards. All the boards are 007, 008, 009. Now it will be easy for us to understand, right? So now the question is 007 in this or not. What is the red color boards? If yes, then only where condition will be satisfied. Then we are printing SID. Now we try to ask Mr. SID. Mr. SID, you are going to be printed because of this tuple, right? You are one of the reservation, that's why you are printed first of all. So why you will be printed? Because your corresponding BID which is reserved by you at some point of time is red color board. That's why you are printed. Now I can say that Mr. 1, you are definitely a person who reserved red color board, correct? Eventually at some point of time. I'm not saying that you reserved all the red boards. I'm not saying that you reserved only red boards, right? But I have seen one reservation entry with 1007 where 007 is a red color board. In that way, so any person reserves really a red color board, so he will have a reservation like this. Then that is also processed because you processed every reservation. So when this is processed, where condition will be definitely satisfied because 007 is red color board. So need not be 007, it might be 008. Still the condition will become true. Such SID will be printed. Now I understand this r.SID is nothing but collection of SIDs who reserved red color boards. Let's clearly remember it that we having now SIDs who reserved red color boards. I write it. Who reserved red color boards. Now go to the next level, which is our outermost query. In that, step number 1, take sailors, iterate over all the sailors, right? But we don't try every tuple. We take only first tuple and we understand it whether it is printed or not. So later we can understand other tuples also, right? So let me take the first tuple. You will have SID and SName. So now for this tuple where condition is applied. So s.sid. For good imagination, we assume that s.sid is 1. Now he is Raju. Now the question, Raju is printed or not, right? Because you are printing it. Before that where condition will be applied. So where SID which is 1 in this is already who reserved red color boards. If you are here, definitely you are either 1 or 2 or 3. Then only that s.sid will be, then only where condition will be satisfied. So we are printing S names. Now tell me when Raju will be printed. When 1 is there, then 1 definitely reserved red color board, correct? So that's why I can say that collection of names who reserved red color boards definitely will be printed. Example 2 is a person who reserved red color board. So these are all people who reserve red color boards. Then definitely 2 in 1, 2, 3 will match. That's quite obvious, right? So I can say that finally this query's result is find the sailor names who have reserved red color boards. Okay. Let's see when this in operator becomes not in, what happens? Okay, so everything is same. I'm changing into not in. Stop the video and you also think about it and try to find out the output of this query. If you cannot, then continue the video. Okay, so if you understand how this query is working, then that's good. If you don't understand, continue the video. That's it. Let's do this. So what I'm going to do is, so one good thing for us is already we computed it, right? This query is not changed, correct? So we know that step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. But to do step number 2, step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. But to do this one, to do step number 2, we have to come to here, right? Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. So we know that this is collection of BIDs who reserve red color boards, because already we have done it. Now here collection of SIDs who have reserved red color boards. So finally up to this point it is clear. Now because of not in, what happens we'll see. So we iterate over sailors, right? So take every sailor now, run this where condition. Whenever where condition is true, print the sailor names, right? Let's take a random tuple again. So SID, S name. Now let's say 1 comma Raju. So one not in here, who are all they? These are all people who reserve red color boards, right? So one not here means what? Definitely one has not done that, right? So definitely I can say that one does not reserve red color board. If he has reserved, he will be here. So it's quite easy to understand that Raju never reserved red color board. So finally this is about not only Raju, it's about every such tuple, right? If second tuple is 2 comma Rani. So if 2 is not in here, definitely we can say that 2 has not reserved red color board, correct? Now finally I can say that, so all the tuples, of course, because 1 and 2 are already here. So all the tuples who have not reserved red color boards will be printed, their corresponding names. So collection of sailor names who have not reserved red color boards is the output of this query. Now let me modify this place, so I would like to keep in as it is and I would like to change here not in. Then what would be the output? Let's see that. So if I do that, so only this part is correct. Remaining entire thing we have to recalculate, right? So select b.bid from boards, everything is nothing but collection of red color boards. Fine. So come here. So you should be very careful while evaluating the queries. So don't be superficial. Don't overlook the problem. So we'll see this one. So what is to be done here? Take every reservations and apply where condition, right? Let me take a random reservation. So that is nothing but SID BID combination. So if you understand this, we can understand everything, because so we are iterating over every reservation tuple. If you understand for one thing, you can understand everything. That's what I'm saying. Example, SID is 1, boat ID is 007. Now my question, this is the printing time. If where condition is true, this SID will be printed here. So you tell me when this where condition will be true. Where condition is true only when this corresponding 007 not here. All these are all already red color boards. Then your boat ID not here means it is not red color board. Then SID is printing, SID is reserving it. So SID is reserving a board which is not here means not red color board. We are printing SID. So who is one? So one is a person who reserved a boat that is definitely not a red color board. But some students think different way, which is wrong reason. What is that is? So they say that, sir, this output is nothing but collection of SIDs who have not at all reserved red color boards. Don't say that, because we are only seeing one tuple and we are deciding the output. Remember, from now onwards in SQL generally, so we take a tuple and we take the decision. So now when you are only processing one tuple and taking the decision, that decision does not depend on other activities or other activities by this SID. Who knows this one? Example, let's say you have another reservation for same SID 1 but 008 boat, where 008 is red color board. Imagine this situation. So 008 is red color board. Now here, since 007, I assume that let's say 007 is green color board. So these are all collection of red color boards. Since 008 is a red color board, it will be here. Now what we are doing is we are taking every reservation entry and we are checking this ordered BID not in this condition. Here 007 not in this one. The reason 007 is green color board, correct? So I want only red color boards here. So since 007 not in here, so we are going to print SID. It doesn't mean that one never reserved which is red color board, correct? So that means we are only processing one tuple and we are deciding something. So that's why. So by processing one tuple, we can't generalize. Otherwise, we can't summarize overall activity of SID. So don't try to summarize like this. One reserved only red boards, otherwise one reserved all the red boards, otherwise one never reserved green color boards. Nothing can be concluded with one tuple. You tell me with one tuple what can we conclude? See, very easy. This is a tuple. We are now printing one. At that time definitely, so this SID reserved a board which is not here, which is not red. So that means eventually, that means in one reservation this person one reserved a non-red board. Here we are printing this one because he reserved something. First of all, that you should understand. We are printing him because of he reserved something, and that reserved something is not here means it is not a red color board. Finally I understand. So it's a collection of SIDs who have reserved a non-red board. So we are printing for reserving, not for we are printing for reserving, not for non-reserving, correct? So that's why finally I can summarize like this: collection of SIDs who have reserved a non-red board. Let me remember it: who have reserved a non-red board, a non-red board. I don't know about other things, like what are all other things he reserved, but definitely he reserved a non-red board. Let's go to the next this level. In this level, we have to process every sailor, right? And we have to check this where condition. Whenever this s.sid here, what is this SID is? Collection of SIDs who reserved a non-red board, right? And you are part of that means definitely you are also same kind of person. So we are printing S name. So we are taking every sailor. If any person sailor ID here, that means these are all people who reserve non-red boards, then you are also same kind of person, then you will be printed. Now I can say that collection of sailor names who have reserved at least one non-red board, correct? So that is the output. Now final answer is sailor names who have reserved at least one non-red board. Let's try to change here now. I write here not in and I try to find out what is the correct answer. So here now not in and not in. So this variation we will see. Everyone stop the video and think about the solution for this one. What is the output? Then after that continue the video. Okay. Let's begin. So up to this point it is correct, right? What is that? SIDs who have reserved a non-red board. Remember it. Now we are here. We take every sailor. Whenever a sailor's ID not here, we are printing. We'll ask. Example, let's take a tuple number 1. Let's say Raju. Raju's SID 1. Now, Mr. Raju will be printed only this one, not in this one, right? So, 1 does not belongs to these people. Who are they? Who have reserved at least one non-red board, correct? So, example, this is the situation. 1 does not belongs to 2, 3 set, correct? 2 and 3 are the people who reserved a non-red board. You are not like that. That means you never done that. What is that? You never reserved a non-red board. That means what? You, if and all if 1 is reserved, so he reserved only red boards, correct? Sir, why not he reserve green color board? Example, 1 reserves green color board. You see, who are these people? These are all people reserved a non-red board, correct? That means green means non-red. Then that 1 will be here. Then 1 does not belongs to 1 to 3 is quite false, right? So this never will become true. That's why. So whenever 1 is printed, 1 should not be here. Then that means he should not do this kind of activity. What is that? He should not reserve a non-red board. Then he should reserve only red boards. But I am not saying that they should compulsorily reserve. If and all if they reserve, they should reserve only red boards. Now final answer is collection of sailor names who reserve only red boards. I am not saying that here they compulsory reserve red boards. Try to understand. Okay. Now let me summarize it. The output of this query is, especially not in is collection of sailor names who have not at all reserved anything. Otherwise, if and all if they reserved anything, then they reserved only red boards. That's it. Okay. Let's learn any and all operators. Whenever you have any operator, before that we should write op. Op is nothing but relational operator, like less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, equal to, not equal to. Similarly, all also goes with op, where op is nothing but these symbols. Okay. So now what you have to learn is where to use any operator, where to use all operator, and when they are used, how the query will be evaluated. First of all, in the where condition, generally we write any operator. That means where column value of any. See the structure of any. Okay. So here column value. One important point is, example, this column values data type is, let's say here integer, right? Then right side you will be writing definitely a query. That query contains exactly one column. Then only it will work. The reason, we are going to compare this s dot rating against this query's result. So that query's result also should have only one column value. Okay, that means single column. That is one thing. And data type should be same. Example here, s dot rating is integer. Then this column values data type should be integer. That's it. Then query structure is syntactically correct. So example, this is string. Is that rating, let's say string, just for time being. If this is integer, this output, then this query's syntax is wrong. We say that so this query cannot be evaluated. Now we'll see how this query will be evaluated now. Very simple. First, started outer query. This is outer query. Step number 1, take the table. Step number 2, apply the where condition. Step number 3, print the corresponding sailor name whenever this where condition is evaluated. Example, let's take 3 tuples, sailors 1, 2, 3. Their names are A, B, C. Their ratings are, let's say 5, 6, 7. So this is rating field, which is important for us. How this query will be evaluated is, every tuple will be taken and where condition will be evaluated. If condition is true, then print the corresponding sailor name. Example, sailor name first of all A, correct? So first of all, take s dot rating 5. I am taking this tuple now. So fix s dot rating 5. So the question is like 5 greater than any of this one. So this entire query's result depends on this subquery. Let me evaluate this subquery. Select s dot rating from sailors s. That means we are collecting all the sailors ratings. They are nothing but 5, 6, 7, because we know that sailor table, right? So this is 5, 6, 7. Now try to evaluate this any condition. What is s dot rating for first tuple? 5, right? Then it is like asking this question, 5 greater than any of this 5, 6, 7. Sir, this query will be evaluated to true or false now. It depends on the number of these tuples. Here any means at least one time this greater than condition should be true. Let's check. 5 greater than 5, false. 5 greater than 6, false. 5 greater than 7, false. So you have taken the first tuple and s dot rating on that tuple, and that tuple's s dot rating was not greater than any of these ratings. So condition always false, right? Then we say that at this moment this where condition is false. So we reject this tuple. Now we know that we evaluate for every tuple of the sailors, correct? So in the second step we take this tuple and do the same story. What is that? Apply this condition. What is that? S dot rating 6 now. Ask this question again. S dot rating 6 greater than any of all these 5, 6, 7. So this is constant because it is a constant query. So this query's result always 5, 6, 7. I can take it. Now 6 greater than at least one of the 5, 6, 7. Any is like at least. At least once this greater condition should be true. 6 greater than 5, true, enough. So you don't require to evaluate 6 greater than 6, 6 greater than 7. Okay, so we say that. So finally any condition is true, right? So the corresponding, now this time for this tuple where condition is evaluated to true, and what is the corresponding sailor name? B. B will be printed. Now if I write output, in the output first step B will be printed. Then we will go to the next tuple. In that way all the tuples should be processed. If I take the third tuple and if I evaluate where condition, S dot rating will be 7. So 7 will be greater than any of 5, 6, 7. Yes, 7 greater than 5. At least one time it is true. Correct? So not only one time, two times it is true. 7 greater than 5, 7 greater than 6. That is enough. At least once is enough. That's why we say again where condition is satisfied. So corresponding tuple C will be printed. So output is B comma C. Now easily we can understand that. So the names of the sailors whose ratings are better than at least one person, right? Then only this condition will be true. Why 5 is not printed? That means corresponding sailor name, because his rating was not greater than at least one person's ratings, correct? So collection of sailors names whose ratings are not least, that's it. Okay, now we'll see all operator. So what is the difference between any operator and all operator is, this time your condition greater than will be evaluated for all the tuples of right side. Every time it should be true. So let's evaluate this query now for all operator. So same table I take, A comma B comma C are the sailors. Let's say 1, 2, 3. The ratings are 5, 6, 7. How all works we'll see. First of all, as same story, S dot rating will be 5. Then this question will be asked, 5 greater than all, this subquery's result. What is this subquery's result? Select all the ratings from sailors. They are 5, 6, 7. The question is now, is this 5 greater than all 5, 6, 7? No, correct? It is even not greater than at least one tuple, right? So that's why this condition is false. So where condition is false, this tuple will be rejected. Then this tuple will be taken and query will be evaluated again. This time S dot rating will be 6. 6 greater than all 5, 6, 7? No. 6 greater than 5 true. 6 greater than 6 false. Correct? So now 7 will be substituted. For second tuple also this is wrong. Now third tuple will be this one. I am processing this one. S dot rating 7. 7 greater than all 5, 6, 7. 7 greater than 5 true. 7 greater than 6 true. 7 greater than 7. Let me write the results. 7 greater than 5 true. 7 greater than 6 true. 7 greater than 7 false. But for me always I should get true, true, true. Then only I say where condition is evaluated to true. Now here not every time it is true, right? That's why where condition is evaluated to false. Let me do some modification here. I write greater than or equal to. Then what happens? So then this query will be like this. Let me evaluate it. First of all, tuple number 1. So S dot rating 5. Is this 5 greater than or equal to all 5 comma 6 comma 7? We'll see. 5 greater than or equal to 5 true. 5 greater than or equal to 6 false. Enough. I want all truths, right? So here I did not get all the truths. So this tuple will be rejected. Similarly, you understand that 6 also will be rejected. We'll take 7. So 7 greater than or equal to all 5 comma 6 comma 7. Yes, 7 greater than or equal to 5 true. 7 greater than or equal to 6 true. 7 greater than or equal to 7 true. So every time it is true, then what happens is this tuple will be selected, because where condition is evaluated to true whenever there is all operator. So this S dot rating should be greater than or equal to all the tuples of this subquery. That's it. Okay. So answer is this tuple, and especially the corresponding S name. What is it? C. So output will be C. Now tell me what is C here. Why C is printed? C is the sailor name whose rating was greater than or equal to all the ratings. Any person's rating greater than or equal to all the ratings, so definitely it is highest. That is the semantic of highest rating, right? So now I can say that we can compute highest rating using this query. So all operator can be used to find out the highest rating. Understand? Now we'll see one more query. Find second highest rating from sailors. Okay. So how to find out the second highest? Actually at this moment, with whatever the operators we know, it will be very difficult to find out. So I'm going to teach you aggregate operators. Once you learn them, so finding second highest is not a big deal. But here it will be very big deal. We'll see why. So stop the video and try to write a query for finding second highest on your own. So you understand why it is very difficult. Now what I do is I try to solve this problem with this query. So first try to write this query. Select S dot rating from sailors except select S dot rating from sailors where S dot rating greater than or equal to all select S dot rating from sailors. So systematically we try to understand what is this part. This part is nothing but all ratings, right? From all ratings what I do is I try to compute highest rating here. So why it computes highest rating, already we have seen this query. Select rating from sailors where that rating greater than or equal to all the ratings. This is again all the ratings, right? So you tell me, if here what is happening is every tuple is taken. I am talking about this query, only this part. First we focus here. Take every sailor. We got experience by this time, correct? So we take every sailor and we evaluate wear condition. Example, while evaluating for the first tuple, if S dot rating, let's say something 10, if that 10 greater than or equal to all the ratings, correct? So this is already all ratings. If your number 10, if it is greater than or equal to all the ratings, that is definitely highest rating, correct? So such rating will be, that rating only will evaluate this where condition to true. So we print the corresponding rating. So what are we printing? We are printing this kind of ratings which are nothing but greater than or equal to all the ratings. So highest ratings. So example, if your rating is 9, which is not highest, then 9 greater than or equal to all the ratings is absolutely false. So 9 will not be printed in the output. So in that way, only highest rating will be printed here. Now here all the ratings will be printed. I am talking about this part, here to here. All the ratings except highest rating. So the resultant query is nothing but ratings which are not highest. That means second highest, third highest, so on. All the ratings will be selected here in this one. From now onwards, I denote this query as Q. So because I am going to write this query so many times, that's why from now onwards, generally we have to write this entire query, but I am symbolically I am taking Q. Whenever I write Q, you have to write this entire query. Ready? So what I am going to do is, I am going to write now query for second highest. Select. How to do that? I will tell you my idea. I take all the ratings which are not highest. So this one. So in this one you have second highest, third highest. So create a temporary table with this. You tell me what these ratings comprises. So all these ratings are nothing but which are not highest. If I compute again highest among this all the ratings, that will be second highest because there is no first highest. Now you have second, third, fourth, all the highest. Among them, first highest is nothing but second highest, correct? So that's why my target is, already I have this query, correct? So in this query, if I take this query as the table, then I can find out first highest. I am going to do that. So what I do is, I take this query now, select from Q. We should write like this, Q. What is Q? This entire query. You write this entire query here. Okay. So definitely we can write in the from class either direct table or a query. If you write a query in the from class, that result of the query will be taken as table. But remember one thing, according to SQL standard, when you write rather than table, if you write something query, that should be aliased. That means we have to write a temporary name for it, because it is not a table, it's a query. So that query, if you write followed by temp, then what happens is, I just explained up to this point. When you write select from query temp, so what your SQL compiler will do is, it will create a table which is nothing but this output of this query. Example, this query's output is what? Already we know that, which other than highest, correct? So this is nothing but only one field which is other than highest, remember it. Such ratings all will be collected and one name will be given for that result, that is temp. From now onwards, temp is a table which is nothing but result of this query. This result of this query is nothing but all the ratings which are not highest. In this one, Now what I am going to do is where I write where, try to understand this one, where the temp dot rating greater than or equal to all. Here what I do is again I take this temp table. I will tell you the reason. So here again I take select ratings. Okay, here let me write temp dot rating from. What is temp, sir? Being here you don't know what is temp, because temp is a result of this query. You can use temp only up to this point. That means here there is a valid reason to use temp here, because we have query. Similarly, we have to construct another query. What you have to do is write q here, from q temp. Okay, so now just only focus on this part. Now you try to understand this part. Select temp dot rating from q, which is temp. So here temp is nothing but this q. What is this q? Already q is a query, right? So this query, so this already we know that which is q, right? So this query we have to write here followed by temp. So now another temp table is created. That is nothing but a table without highest, right? Other than highest. Now we'll see why this query gives you second highest. For that, what are the things we should do? What we did is we took a temporary table which is q here. Again same temporary table q. There are two instances of q. So q is nothing but other than highest. Now let's evaluate this one. What happens is q. So from now onwards q is nothing but other than highest, right? Take a tuple from temp table. Temp table is nothing but a table which is nothing but collection of ratings other than highest. Now we are taking all such tuples one by one and we are taking temp dot rating. If the temp dot rating, example temp dot rating is 9 first time, okay, assume that ratings are 9 comma 8 comma 7. So this is your temp table and this is second highest actually, correct? So first highest is already removed because of this query's q, right? So in this q already we removed first highest. Now in this temp take the first tuple and temp dot rating is 9. If 9 is greater than or equal to all, what is this one here? Again collection of temp dot ratings from q. Q is nothing but temp. So we know that q is nothing but a table which is other than highest ratings. So here also 9 comma 8 comma 7. So let's say highest rating is 10, but 10 is neither part of this temp nor part of this one because we removed it. Now 9 greater than or equal to 9 comma 8 comma 7, absolutely true. Then 9 will be printed. Then 8 comma 7 will not be printed because 8 greater than or equal to all 987 is wrong. 7 greater than or equal to all 987 is wrong. So only 9 will be printed. You tell me what is 9. 9 is highest in temp table, but temp is only having other than highest. On that highest will be second highest. So here you simply print temp dot rating. That's it. So this query will give you second highest, but of course it's very lengthy. Don't simply write q. Q is nothing but that entire query we should copy here, and same entire query we should copy here also. Understand? So that is the difficulty of finding second highest. But how to do it easily? After learning aggregate operators, we can do it easily. We'll see that. Let's see one query related to any operator and we try to evaluate and we'll see the output. Select rating from Sailor says where rating greater than any of. Select rating from Sailor says where h dot is greater than or equal to 65. So you know the order, right? 1, 2 and 3. So step number 1, take all the sailors. So from now onwards what we do is we try to evaluate this query only for one tuple, because if you understand how this query will be evaluated for one sailor tuple, in the same way everything will be evaluated. That's why my target is tuple number 1 from sailors. Tuple number 1 from sailors. Let's imagine some data so that it will be easy for you to understand. So for that I use SID1. Let's say name of that sailor is Raju. His rating is something 10. Now, so how this query will be evaluated? This sailor tuple will be taken. Now this where condition will be evaluated. Where rating, because we are evaluating for tuple number 1, rating is now 10. So 10 greater than any of this one. What is this query's output? Select ratings from sailors S. So this is again a new table. That means one more instance of sailor will be taken. So don't get confused between this sailors and this sailors. So this sailors S is different. This sailors S is different. So imagine you have a now new sailor table S. So where S dot age greater than or equal to 65. So take all the tuples here. This query is taking all the tuples where S dot age greater than or equal to 65, like this 65, 67, 70. Such tuples will be taken. After that what happens? Their ratings will be projected here. In this query's output, ratings will be printed. Let's say the ratings are 8, 7, something 6. Since S dot age greater than or equal to 65 for these three tuples, their ratings are 6, 7, 8. Then I can say that this query's output is 6, 7, 8 in any order. We don't know the order. Now, go to the original query. In this one, take the first sailor tuple, rating 10, that will be compared against all these values. 10 greater than at least one of the 6, 7, 8 is a question. Is this 10 greater than 6, 7, 8? Let's evaluate. 10 greater than 6, true. 10 greater than 7, true. 10 greater than 8, true. Now, my question here is, at least one time this condition is true or not, this greater than condition. Yes, that's why we say that where condition is finally evaluated to true. So since where condition is evaluated to true, because at least one true entry I have seen here, so the tuple will be taken. Now Raju's rating will be printed, which is nothing but 10. Now tell me the reason why 10 will be printed. You are printing 10 because the 10 is greater than at least one of the 6, 7, 8. What is the significance of 6, 7, 8? They are all ratings of old people, right? Like S dot age greater than or equal to 65. So we first taken all the sailors all the ratings whose age greater than or equal to 65. Let's say that values are 6, 7, 8. Maybe sometimes it may be 9, 10, doesn't matter. So we have now collection of ratings whose age is greater than or equal to 65. Now we are coming from left. So we are going to print sailors whose rating is greater than at least one sailor whose age greater than or equal to 65. So that means to be printed rating is a rating of a sailor whose rating is greater than at least one sailor whose age greater than or equal to 65. That's it. So that is the output. In that way, if you evaluate the query easily, we can understand. Now my question here is, let's say second tuple from the sailors is 2, Rani, let's say rating is 3. Question, this rating 3 is printed or not? So this 3 will be printed only if 3 greater than, because we are going to substitute 3 here when you evaluate second tuple, 3 greater than any of this one. What are these ratings? Ratings which are nothing but older people ratings. That means whose age greater than or equal to 65. 3 greater than at least one of the 6, 7, 8 is absolutely false. Then 3 will not be printed. Finally, the ratings which are greater than at least one person's rating whose age greater than or equal to 65 will be printed. That's it. Okay.